In this video, I'm going to give you 3 hurdles that you might experience if you decide to create 3D printed sunglasses. Before we get going real quick, Shifters Eyewear is a Vegas-based startup that's trying to bring 3D printed eyewear to the US, not just for our brand, but for others as well. We're trying to streamline the manufacturing process so that people that want to start eyewear and sunglass companies can basically not have to go to China and overseas for their manufacturing. We want to make the production of eyewear as easy as basically making a t-shirt, screen printing a design, and starting to sell it on Shopify. Now, before we get into the hurdles that we've actually experienced firsthand, do me a huge favor, shoot a like. The algorithm loves it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Number one hurdle we've absolutely faced is the hinges. It's our goal to have screwless hinges with no metal. And the reason for that is we want our frames and our temples to be interconnected, basically so they can be replaced and they can be repaired, and so that people can basically switch them out and do whatever they want. But the last thing we need is screws and tools involved. We want everything to be seamless. We want everything to essentially be interconnected, almost like it's one piece. Now that sounds great with theory, but the biggest problem with that is the durability aspect. We first created a latch hinge, and the latch hinge was awesome because it did connect very easily, but the problem with that was it also disconnected very easily. So we needed to work on the stability and the durability of the hinges. What we now have created is a more of a pin hinge, and our first round of prototypes did a lot better. The great part about it was you could dangle the shades and the temples would not fall off from the frames. The problem with that is they didn't stay up on their own either. Without basically holding them up, they didn't stay up. They kind of flapped around, like basically a pair of frames that has a very loose hinge. Now, that's not what we want either. We definitely want it to feel very secure and durable. So our next round of prototypes, that is going to be one of our biggest focuses, is basically figuring out a mechanism to make sure that these things can actually stay in place. But the great thing about the pin hinge is they actually stay together, unlike the latch hinge that wouldn't even stay on your face. The second problem is tolerance levels and precision. We're basically trying to eliminate the variability between the design itself, the file, and the actual print of the sunglasses. We're also trying to figure out the variability from frame to frame. We want things to be pretty consistent. We can't have really a lot of inconsistency if we're going to go to scale and actually somewhat mass produce these. We have noticed that with the SLS printing, we do have some tolerance issues. However, we are narrowing that down, and we have another option, which is the SLA. The problem with the SLA is it is cured by UV light, so we don't really want it to change the temple and frame color because it gives it a yellowish tint. However, we could paint these if necessary. But the other issue with SLA is we don't want it to be too brittle where the frames really crack really easy. But with the SLS and the nylon material that we're using, it seems like they're more durable compared to the SLA, which uses resin. So we're going to continue to just see what works best. It's going to be a balance between tolerance levels, quality, durability, and basically sustainability in regards to our sunglasses and what's going to not fall apart versus what is going to fall apart. And one more thing regarding tolerance levels and precision, we don't want them to have misalignments from frame to frame, as we don't want people to not be comfortable when wearing the sunglasses, and we want them to fit properly and not have structural issues. And the third hurdle we faced is balancing dimensions, weight, and material. First round of prototypes were hilarious. They were only 0.2 ounces, so the frames and the temples combined for 0.2 ounces. Now, don't get me wrong, we're absolutely going for a lightweight frame, but we definitely need the frame to be in the 0.5, 0.6 ounce range before we actually add the lenses. But we also don't want them too heavy. So balancing the size and the dimensions and making sure they're not bulky is key. For us, this has really just been a trial and error basis. We didn't really know what we wanted exactly in regards to dimensions. You would have thought I would have given the 3D printer exact sizes of the temples and the frames. No, I just sent examples, which was probably my first problem because the first pair we got was extremely small. It could definitely fit, but it just didn't feel right. And so that increased size of both the frames and the temples and also the thickness of the shades has helped the weight. And we're up to 0.5, 0.6 ounce now, which is awesome. So when we add those lenses, we probably will be in that 0.8 ounce, 0.9 ounce range that we actually want. We definitely don't want to go over an ounce just because, like for me, heavy sunglasses way down on your nose, they get uncomfortable. And that's just something we're really trying to avoid. But balancing the dimensions, the weight, and the material has absolutely been a challenge. And really, it's just trial by error until we get it right, until we get that perfect frame. And one more thing, we actually aren't experiencing this right now, but the scalability aspect printing our eyewear 3D could be an issue in the future. However, we are doing minimum runs, and that is part of the reason why we actually went this route instead of injection molds, where the upfront cost, I should say, is very expensive, and you really have to print enough to make it worth it. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. And also, you can email me at Derrick, that's DERRIK, at shifterseyewear.com. Thanks for tuning in. Shoot this video a like, and if you haven't, subscribe.